In this video I would like to show you 10 tips and tricks for your GoPro Hero 8. They should help you to get the most out of your camera. I will mainly focus on topics that are not already covered by my other tutorials. There are already detailed tutorials on the video mode, the photo mode and the time-lapse mode on this channel. And by the way, if you are new here, my name is Werner, I live in the Italian Alps and this channel is about filmmaking tutorials, GoPro and reviews of consumer cameras. Consider subscribing to the channel if you are interested in these topics and have fun with this video. My first tip refers to a menu function that was newly introduced on the Hero 8. On the main screen you see the settings button in the bottom center of the screen, and tapping it opens the presets menu. If you tap and hold the same button, you will no longer open the presets menu, but the actual settings menu. This way you can make changes more quickly. However, if you tap and hold one of the shortcuts on the left or right side, a menu will open where you can change the shortcut. And that brings me to my second tip. You can customize all of the shortcuts on the GoPro Hero 8 to suit your needs. And you can set different shortcuts for every preset. For example, suppose you want to add a shortcut in the slow motion preset which doesn't have a shortcut in the default configuration. You open the settings menu, scroll all the way down and select, for example, a shortcut for the lower left position. For example, exposure value compensation. This way you can always adjust the exposure quickly and easily when using the slow motion mode. You can then change the shortcuts as already said simply by tapping and holding them. My next tip refers to the QuikCapture mode. You will probably know that with this mode you can start a video recording by simply pressing the shutter button when the camera is turned off. The camera will record with your last video settings. QuikCapture will help you significantly to improve battery life. You can use QuikCapture not only to make videos but also to take photos and time lapses. To do this, press and hold the shutter button for 3 seconds when the camera is turned off. The camera turns on and starts recording a time lapse with your last time lapse settings. Since with a photo time lapse many single pictures are taken, this feature is also suitable for quickly shoot a few photos. When you press the shutter button again, the camera turns off. Just make sure that you have activated the photo format in time-lapse mode and that you have not set the time warp mode. If you only want to shoot one photo in this way, you should simply set the time-lapse interval to, for example, 5 seconds. Then you can simply turn off the camera after the first photo. You may want to change the settings underwater, for example when diving, but you will not be able to use the touchscreen underwater. It is possible to change the video preset or the photo and time-lapse mode without using the touchscreen and with the help of the front screen. To do this, briefly press the shutter button and the mode button at the same time. A menu will appear on the front display. Use the mode button to move through the different presets. Use the shutter button to make changes. My next tip should help you to expose your shot correctly. Suppose you are in a relatively dark environment, for example in a forest, but you can see the sky on the horizon. The camera's automatic system determines the exposure based on the entire frame. Since it is relatively dark, this could result in the sky burning out completely and be only visible as a white spot. If you want to prevent this, you can use the exposure control to set the camera to determine the exposure by taking only a very specific area into account. For example, the sky. You can do this by tapping and holding on the area you want. A gray frame will appear. When you are satisfied with the exposure, click on the check mark at the bottom right. Now the camera will calculate the exposure based on this small area. If you want to fix the exposure completely, tap on an area as before. When the gray frame appears, tap on it again so that a lock appears. Confirm again at the bottom right. Now the exposure will not change, even if the ambient light changes significantly. With the GoPro Hero 8, you can also shoot clips with portrait orientation. To do this, simply hold the camera in portrait mode and start recording. This is suitable for Instagram, for example. The problem is that sometimes you will unintentionally shoot a video with portrait orientation. This could happen, for example, if you have your camera attached to a pole and hold it sideways while pressing the shutter button. To prevent this, there is the landscape lock. You activate it in the touchscreen menu. This way you prevent the portrait mode. If you simply want to lock the current mode, whether it is a landscape or portrait orientation, you can do so in the dashboard by tapping on the appropriate icon. And by the way, if you're interested in which poles I use or which are my favorite mounts and accessories, then have a look at the links in the video description. If you buy through one of these links, the price will remain the same for you, but I will receive a small commission. That helps me to get on with this channel, so thanks for that. I must say that I'm very satisfied with the GoPro Hero 8 so far. It is very stable and never actually crashes. If the camera still doesn't respond at some point, press and hold the mode button for 10 seconds. This will restart your camera, so you don't have to remove the battery. The GoPro Hero 8 Black tends to get warm when taking longer shots. This will be a problem especially in hot environments. Even overheating and automatic shutdown is possible. There are a few tips to limit the heat generation. You should definitely deactivate the GoPro app as it requires a lot of energy. If that's not enough, try reducing the resolution or frame rate and making shorter videos if possible. All of this will definitely help you prevent the camera from overheating. Imagine you're waiting for an exciting moment to capture, but you don't know exactly when it will happen. For example, you're waiting for a jump or a passing race car. Or you might want to film yourself and get the camera into position and then have to prepare yourself. Or you want to use the GoPro, for example, as a kind of surveillance camera and don't know exactly when something important happens. In all these cases, it may happen that you take useless long shots. To prevent this, there is the looping feature. The looping feature on the Hero 8 is a bit hard to find. You need to create a new preset for it. Under Mode, select Looping, and once you have created the preset, you can set the interval in the settings, for example to 5 minutes. The camera records then for 5 minutes and overwrites the old video after the time has expired. It will do this until you stop recording. The last 5 minutes will then be saved. You can change the interval also to, for example, 20 minutes or even 2 hours. There may be situations where the beep tones of the GoPro are perceived as disturbing. The same can be true for the LED lights blinking during recording. Both can be adjusted and deactivated. There are 3 different volume levels for the beep sound: high, medium and low. For the LEDs, you can either deactivate only the LED on the front or both LEDs, the one on the front and the one on the back. This way you won't be able to see immediately if the camera is recording. And finally, I would like to give all those who live in the PAL region an extra tip. If you want to set the optimal frame rate for the PAL region, that means for example 25 frames per second or 50 frames per second, you can find the required settings under General and Anti-Flicker. For the PAL region, you have to select 50 Hz here. And that's it for today. If the video was interesting for you, give me a like as feedback and see you next time.